अच्छा क्लाउड भर गया. Right. So I thought maybe Premanjan is the best person suited for this. So Premanjan, we are all waiting for now. क्या नाम है? Shaunak Rishi Prabhu. Let's see. He said that he might be late by a few minutes, so we're just waiting. Okay. But we will be having. I believe that we will be having many devotees today. Many devotees have been invited actually. So देखते हैं क्या होता है. Let's wait for. Um, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. She'd like to magic that one. I'm just waiting. And in the meantime, we are also waiting for the other devotees. I can see so many devotees from India joining. I can see Rajul here. Hare Krishna, Rajul. Prabhu.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम.
It's good to see. Generally, yeah. This is a like platform जो सारे हमारे पाकिस्तानी devotees के लिए है. मेरी सगी बहन भी आई हुई है यहाँ. Yeah.
थैंक यू सो मच, यू इंस्पायर्ड मी. आपका स्ट्रिक्ट मैसेज आया कि यू हैव टू ज्वाइन. तो अब ऐसे इतने दिन बाद मैं भक्तों के किसी लेक्चर को ज्वाइन कर रहा हूँ, तो मेरे को ऐसे लग रहा है शायद मेरी पुरानी जिंदगी वापस आ गई है.
Yeah, but I believe कि शौनक ऋषि प्रभु का जो प्रेजेंटेशन का स्टाइल है वो बहुत नया है. So you'll find that, yeah, you'll find that.
वो भी ज्वाइन करेंगे आफ्टर
He's
सम
just
टाइम.
coming. Yeah, he should be. Yeah. हम उन्हीं का इंतजार कर रहे हैं. उन्होंने बोला था I might be a few minutes late.
जी 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 जी.
Pranam ji, Hare Krishna, Dr. I've seen you. सामने. So now we are waiting gradually. I mean, generally हमारे जो वैसे ही डिवोटीज होते हैं वो वैसे ही तकरीबन 40 से 50 के बीच में रेंज करता है. शौनक ऋषि प्रभु is here. Premanjan Prabhu. Prabhu is here.
Hare Krishna, Shaunak Rsi Prabhu. We are so happy and honored to have you here. So glad that you found out time for all of us. And it's such an honor to have you in this assembly.
Thank you. It's my honor to be invited. Thank you very much. You have to explain to me what the assembly is.
I think that would be the best done by Bhimla Prasad Prabhu.
Yeah, that's like. Please continue, Premanjan Prabhu.
This is a Bhakti Shastra program that is going on specifically for the devotees from Pakistan, and in which they are studying the 4 books of Srila Prabhupada, as you are aware of: Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Instructions, Nectar of Devotion, and Ishopanishad. So, uh, uh, so these are the devotees who are doing this course, and we have invited various speakers before you. Like other speakers have also been a part of this course. So some speakers are teaching the entire unit, and some speakers are doing just a one-time session on a particular topic. So it has been organized in such a way. So most of the devotees are from Pakistan, and few from other places as well. It's the first, I think, Bhakti Shastri program in English in Pakistan. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah. Many of the students here are, I believe, are practicing MBBS. They're part of a medical college.
Okay.
That's
very good.
And for all the other devotees, a heartiest welcome to all of you. And let me quickly and briefly introduce His Shaunak Rsi Prabhu. Shaunak Rsi Prabhu came in contact with devotees, temple, and Srimad in 1979. And for more than 47 years now, Prabhu has been practicing devotional service to Sri Krishna and have rendered many valuable service to global community of devotees. Is from Ireland, currently based in Oxford Center of Hindu Studies. So Prabhu has been a founder and currently a director of Oxford Center for Hindu Studies. This was a first academic Hindu center. It's not a Hindu center, it's a center for Hindu studies. Um, and It was founded in 1997. And I believe that was the first proper academic center for Hindu studies among all over the world. And Personally, I've been a part of that center from a distant way through online courses. And one thing I can say for sure, this center maintains the highest standards of academic excellence. Prabhu has been very, very particular and very much believes in maintaining the academic integrity. And This institute is now the leader all over the world and is actually training other academic institutions how to conduct Hindu studies. So Prabhuji, besides his academic leadership, Prabhuji has contributed a lot in terms of interfaith dialogue within the community and with the global community of other faiths. Under Prabhu's leadership, ISKCON developed its own interfaith statement, which is interestingly perhaps the first official interfaith statement by any Vaishnav community all over the world. So these are the services perhaps in ISKCON devotees don't hear much about, the services of communications, interfaith, academic integrity. We oftentimes hears more about book distribution and Sankirtan, but this is such a valuable services, which I think many devotees realize after many decades or so. So beyond his these along with that, I also want to say he has facilitated many conferences, seminars, symposium promoting Vaishnav Christian dialogue at various levels. We'll also be hearing from Anuttama Prabhu. So Shaunak Rishi Prabhu, along with Anuttama Prabhu, has really established Vaishnav Christian dialogue. And
Anuttama Prabhu is coming next week.
Acha.
Closely following on your toes.
So Prabhuji is also the founding member of ISKCON Studies Institute. He is a trustee of Bhaktivedanta College and currently serves as editor-in-chief of ISKCON Studies Journal. The first ISKCON communication journals for more than a decade were published under Prabhu's guidance. As a person, I've been blessed in my life to come in to take many of the courses from him earlier. And with such an amazing sense of humor, such an amazing insights into Shastras. So a very warm welcome, Shaunak Rishi Prabhu. We are very happy, very honored to have you here. Let us all welcome Prabhu. And we hope that all of you will get a lot of insights, and we hope this is just the first part of our Sangha, and we'll have more such Sanghas in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, I suppose I should I should say something. Thank you very much for Ranjana Prabhu and for all of you for inviting me to this. I'll do the best I can. Interestingly, I've never taught Bhakti Shastri, so this class might have nothing to do with the course you're going to be examined on, but I do hope it will help you think more clearly about the issues. I've been asked to talk about ethics and Krishna consciousness, which is a very interesting subject in relation to the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know if that's a Bhakti Shastri issue, but I'll try and do that. Ethics, of course, is not a Sanskrit term. The idea of ethics comes from Greek philosophy, Greek culture, and it has become part of the Abrahamic faiths, particularly Christianity. Not as much Judaism. Islam treats it in a different way, but Christianity, in its interaction with Greek philosophy, took it very seriously. And ethics, doing the right thing, shall we say, was for many centuries adjudicated according to the Jewish Torah, the Islamic Quran, and the law books, and then the Christian Bible and the canon law of the Church, the Roman Catholic Church initially. And that's where authority came from to tell you if you're doing right and wrong. It came from God. It came from the institution of the church. It came from the teachers, the priests. And that sounds great. Unfortunately, of course, this group says that this is right. This group says that this is right. And where do you go then? And they all say they're representing God. So in the 17th century in Europe, they start what they call the Enlightenment, or as my wife used to call it, the Endarkenment. But anyway, whatever it was a very important time for thinking. And they started to say, well, this doesn't work because everyone's just bumping into each other. So they looked at a more secular view of ethics. And that in that secular ethics, that means non-religious ethics. So it's not about religion. It has to be based on something else. And two people, Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, both Englishmen, they came out with utilitarianism. So whatever's the best thing for most people. And that became, the baseline. And a lot of what we call ethics and values that we talk about today, even in India, unquestioningly, is based on that assumption. Whatever's the best for everybody. That carries some problems because if some people decide that the best for everyone is to kill all the Jews, you're really again, it's not the best for everyone. It's definitely not the best for the Jews. If someone decides that the best for everyone is to kill all the cows and eat them, again, you could be in some difficulty there. Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher, he said, yeah, there are some rational difficulties with this. It should be based on intention. Intention and again, that's right, but what is the intention? What's the adhikar of the person with the intention? Is it the right, and who's it connected to? How do we adjudicate the intention? So it's become a very difficult area. So these are the two areas, the more modern discourse, but it became very relative. Everyone, when you take those two perspectives, then it comes down to the individual to decide. So it becomes very relativistic. Who decides what's right and wrong? Well, it's up to you, really. And as long as you're not causing harm to anyone else, do whatever you like. If it feels good, do it. Just don't harm anyone else. That becomes the lowest common denominator. Unfortunately, it's a very, very low denominator. So in more modern times, more recent decades, people started to come up with what they call value ethics to say that, look, killing is wrong, right? We all agreed killing is wrong. Killing is wrong. Let's say killing is wrong. And they've just started. So it's kind of like going back to square one a little bit. But what's the authority of deciding that killing is wrong? Just that we all agree on it. And the actual fact is that's how people do decide in communities and in counties and in states and in nations. They make these decisions and they call them law. And then that's how you have to conduct yourself. And if you don't do it, then this will happen to you. So that's just a very, very vague overview of what we call ethics. Ethics and dharma are two different things. Dharma is trying to do something else. Dharma is not based on a law book, even though there are Dharma Shastras. But those Dharma Shastras are, in many cases, quite speculative, time-bound. They were written at a certain time for a certain community of people. They were all written for Brahmins because they were written in Sanskrit. So the Brahmins were the only people who had access to them. They were written in North India, South, East, West, and relevant in those conurbations of people, but maybe not relevant outside that. And in many cases, you could argue if they're relevant today. So some parts of them will, some parts of them won't. Again, what's the authority? Interesting pieces of literature for their time. But what Dharma is trying to do is different than ethics and morality as expressed in the Abrahamic, in the Greek philosophical sense. So if we take the Mahabharata, so the Bhagavad Gita is one chapter of the sixth Parvan of the Mahabharata. There are 18 Parvans. So the Gita is just a little snapshot. That's what we're going to focus on today, just a chapter of a book. It is very important to understand the context of the Gita. The context is the Mahabharata. One thing that people don't do is they don't read the Mahabharata. They watch the television series, or they read a one-volume edition, which is like that thick. But it's 18 volumes that thick that have been squeezed into this. So what are you going to squeeze in? Well, all the exciting bits, obviously. But there are 12 parvans after the sixth, and hardly any of that ends up on TV because it's discourse, it's discussion, it's stories. It's not something that you can do something with on a TV and make exciting. It doesn't end up in the abridged edition. But interestingly, the discussion there is all about Dharma. For Vaishnavas, the Mahabharata is the Dharma Shastra. And also interestingly, the book is putting people into impossible situations. You know, if you release the bow, your mother will die. If you don't release the bow, 5,000 people will die. It's like these and we're reading it going, yeah, release the bow. Yeah, don't release the bow. We have our opinion about it. And in those scenarios, the text itself doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't tell you which is the right way and the wrong way. It just tells you a story, and it tells you the choice that person made and the principles on which that choice were based. And then it leaves you to decide what you would choose and what your principles would be, because that's the essence of Dharma. Dharma is principle based. So what the Mahabharata is trying to do is to show you principles by which you can lead your life. And the principles are applied according to Desha, Kala, Patra, time, place, and circumstance. Now, in our tradition, principles, philosophy, theology, the idea of service to God, these are all applied in the same way, in time, place, and circumstance. Every moment you make an offering to Krishna is a unique moment that never happened before. And how you do it is unique because it never happened before. So every time you offer a flower, you have another opportunity to put your heart into it, to meditate on it, to have it as a meditation, a sadhana that you do every day. And every day you just stop doing everything you're doing, and you get that flower and you pick the best flower. Maybe you have to buy the flower, but you buy the best flower and you come and you meditate, and your service increases every day, becomes better. You wash the flower, before you offer it. And then you offer it with full concentration. And it takes you 10 years to get to that level of being able to concentrate on that simple act. Could be that. But this idea of time, place, and circumstance is very important in the tradition of Indian intellectual thought. So if that's the case, the idea of a book that gives you rules that are relevant, that if this happens, you have to do this, it doesn't actually make sense, because the circumstance you're in is going to be absolutely unique. So you have to know the principle that will impel you to act. Now, I can give an example of this. I was reading the letters that Srila Prabhupada was writing to his disciples, more than 7,000 letters that we know of. And consistently in the early days, Prabhupada would say, there's no divorce, no divorce. People would write to him wondering if they could wiggle out of a circumstance, and he'd say, no, no divorce. And then all of a sudden, the devotee who was typing his Prabhupada's secretary got a dictaphone thing, and it was giving this person permission. And so he dutifully typed it and sent it off and came and he asked Prabhupada, he said, this is this is it's like this is inconsistent. You've been saying no divorce. That's the standard. And he said yes. But this devotee, in the tone of his letter, wasn't really asking me. He was saying that this is what he's going to do. And if he did that and disobeyed his guru, then that would be a worse offense. So I gave him permission to save him. So what's the principle? You know, this religious thing is don't tell lies. That's the standard. But is there a circumstance where we can tell lies? If your wife came to you and said, "Does my bum look big in this?" Do you say yes? If you're at your friend's house and they give you some lovely prasad and they ask you, how do you like it? And it was really bad. Do you say it was really bad? What's the principle? And we're going to get into that. Well, let me tell you the story now. It's a story from the Mahabharata, the story of Kaushik the Brahmin. The battle is going on. Arjuna comes in he's the last one to come into Yudhishthira's tent. The day has gone terribly. Nothing went right. Everyone came back and reported failure. Arjuna comes in and he reports failure. And Yudhishthira's upset. And Yudhishthira says, "Oh, what's the point of you and your big stupid bow?" And Arjuna tenses up because he took a vow that nobody could harm or insult his bow. So now he had to kill Yudhishthira because he took the vow. So Krishna's standing in the middle, kind of going. So he says to Arjuna, let me tell you the story of Kaushik the Brahmin. Kaushik never told a lie, and he was famous for it. Everyone knew he never told a lie. So Kaushik was in his village. The villagers heard that the dacoits were coming. So everyone disappeared. They knew how to go up by trails up to the caves where they couldn't be found. They took all their things, all their animals, all their valuables. The dacoits came. The only person in the village was Kaushik because he didn't have very much. He was a Brahmin. They weren't going to touch him. So they were going around, looking around, picking up little bits of iron and a couple of pots here and there. And the leader came up to Kaushik and says, "And you have stayed." He says, "I am a Brahmin. I don't have anything." He says, "So, but are you Kaushik the Brahmin?" He said, "Yes, I am Kaushik the Brahmin." And he said, "But you are the famous Brahmin. You never tell a lie." I said, "No, no, I have never told a lie." He says, "So answer me one question. Where are the villagers?" So Krishna says to Arjuna, what should he do? He also took a vow. So Arjuna, because he took a vow, now he was in his ego, because I've taken the vow, I'm standing. He said he shouldn't tell a lie. And Arjuna said he didn't, and he told them where the villagers were, and that is why he went to hell. So Krishna explained that the principle behind Dharma, all Dharma, is ahimsa. And the 12 books after the battle, after the Bhishma Parvan, the 12 books after are discussions about ahimsa. So people say the Bhagavad Gita is about war. The Bhagavad Gita is a chapter of a book that is about ahimsa. that's, that's the difficulty when you don't read the book and everyone has an opinion, but they haven't actually read the book. So it's about ahimsa. So ahimsa, not harming, is the principle. And that becomes the main principle behind all Dharma. So in the circumstance where your wife asks you, "Does my bottom look big in this?" If you're an intelligent, loving person, you're going to say, "No, darling, you look lovely." Because she needs you to say that. And in the case when you're at your friend's house and they ask you, well, you say, "It was lovely." And you can say under your breath, "It was lovely that you invited me." Maybe it was lovely that you invited me. And that's enough. You can try but ultimately you're telling a lie. But you're being kind. you're being loving. The ahimsa in that circumstance allows you to be that person. So Dharma, as Yudhisthira says, Dharma is shukshma, Dharma is subtle. It has to be applied according to the time, the place, the circumstance, and through life, we become more and more expert at discerning how to apply Dharma. How do we make it? So that's a kind of a standing back from the Gita and looking at the difference between ethics, as we understand it, and Dharma. And I prefer to use the word Dharma because I prefer the approach Dharma takes. I don't think we can come up with clear rules and regulations in global discourse. We've failed to come up with clear rules and regulations. There's a lot of discourse about it, but with Dharma, Hindus have often been criticized for not having clear rules, especially by Abrahamic traditions, and say, well, you don't have rule books, etc. But there's a reason why not. And the reason is so that you can practice according to time, place, and circumstance. So, which allows us to be more loving. The ahimsa is not harming, it's a negative thing. The positive thing is karunaka, titikshava, tolerance, compassion, and love. So practicing ahimsa allows us to get a foothold in the ability to be compassionate and tolerant and ultimately loving. So there you go. So having said that, we do know that the Bhagavad Gita coming to 1866, this Sarva Dhammam Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vrja Aham Tvam Sarva Papevyo Moksha Ishami Masucha. So just surrender to me, Krishna says. Surrender Sarva Dharma, all Dharma. So we've just discussed Dharma, now we're surrendering it. So, but it's only surrendering, you can only surrender it if you have it. This is not saying to people, don't worry about Dharma. No, it's actually saying Dharma is very important. You have to understand it. And if you understand it and practice it, then you understand how to go further. That's what it's saying. Then you can take another step forward and not be concerned about the intricacies of Dharma. It can become very intricate, very religious, based on ritual and rules and prayaschita and all kinds of things. But it's saying, no, we have to move away from that. We have to move towards love. So the Bhagavad Gita is a declaration of love. This is a book about love. It's not about war. It's not about a battle. It's about how to establish a loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. So if we understand this is the context of what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about Dharma, but the context of the Gita is love. So if we reflect on everything we're going to say, it can be used in a purely dharmic context. To be dharmic doesn't mean you have to be theistic. To live in this world, you're from a Vedic Hindu perspective, Vaishnava perspective, you have to be dharmic. That's to not be dharmic is a terrible imposition on the world. You're going to upset other people even without knowing it because you're thoughtless. But you don't have to believe in God to be dharmic. You just have to be a principled person. But the Bhagavad Gita is about developing a loving relationship with God, and Dharma is leading you towards that. Dharma has a use, but don't get Dharma out of context. So the Gita is saying that very, very clearly. Having said that, what I want to introduce you to in terms of the ethics, the Dharma of the Bhagavad Gita is something Premanjana is fully aware of because he must have heard this a million times. But if we look at 6 principles from the Bhagavad Gita, now there are more than 6 principles in the Bhagavad Gita, in my personal opinion, but I like these 6 principles because they make a bit of coherent sense. 2 of them are philosophical, 2 of them are dharmic, and 2 of them are difficult to categorize, shall we say, but they're leading towards the spiritual, but they all connect with each other. Dharma needs perspective. So how do you practice dharma? How do you practice anything? There are certain assumptions about life that we make, and then that's how we proceed. So I was reading in the newspaper when I was in India last time, some High Court judge, not High Court judge, but Supreme Court judge had died, and the Prime Minister of the country was saying, you know, he was a wonderful person, everything, and then at the end of what he said, rest in peace. Now, rest in peace comes from the Latin resquiescat in pace, which is rest in peace, but it's a Christian term for someone who dies and is going to rest in peace. Now, of course, as a Vaishnava or a Hindu, then when you die, you're either going to get born again, which means you're going to become a mewling infant going, wah, so there's no peace happening, or you're going to go to the Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha, Goloka Vrindavan, any of the above is very desirable. But when you get there, you're going to want to do lots of service, and it will satisfy your heart and make you happy. So there's going to be no peace. So is it a blessing or a curse? But the thing is, it's done thoughtlessly. We have to be very clear what our assumptions are, that they're philosophically, theologically correct, and not just repeat things that we hear on the television. How did this creep into Indian culture? Definitely through the television. When Premanjana said I've been a devotee for 47 years, I didn't know that. I hadn't done the maths, but I'm quite shocked. But when I first started coming to India, there was no television in India. And I distinctly remember coming to India, being in Jagannath Puri, when they were airing the first Mahabharat series. It was a total revolution in India. And there was a television outside the Sringaswara gate of the Jagannath temple. And there was a huge crowd watching this small television, you know, and like they would get off work to watch the television. And we were fascinated. You know, television was nothing to us, but like, wow. So a whole revolution happened. And of course, with television and satellite television, then Friends, and everyone's watching Friends. And it's like, and people's values change by watching this. It's Sangha. You're associating with their values or lack of them in some cases. So, yeah, so we end up in those situations if we don't have principles and we don't know the assumptions. The assumptions come from philosophy, and there's two philosophical principles that if you adhere to these assumptions, these are principles of life, then your thinking is straight, shall we say. So the first one, we'll call it Samadarshanaha, and it's from the 5th chapter, but it refers back to the second. Vidyavanaya Sampane Brahmane Gaive Hastani Suni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshanaha. So Samadarshanaha, equal vision, being able to see, it says in the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So this is chapter 5, text 18. But this is a revolutionary way of seeing equality in people. Well, we hear a lot about equality and all that, but this is a revolutionary. This is seeing equality, Samadarshanaha. And it's by virtue of true knowledge, as Vidya Vinaya Sampane, by virtue of true knowledge. Where does the knowledge come from? The very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the very first text of teaching of Lord Krishna, is chapter 2, text 12. I've forgotten it now. Chapter 2, text 12. Someone remind me there.
Natvivaham jatunasha.
Yeah, the Twamnime Janadipa Nachaiva Nabhavishma Sarveva Yamataparam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future will any of us cease to be. Krishna says to Arjuna. He says, you, me, the kings, we're all individuals eternally. We have no beginning and no end. Now, this is Vedanta 101. And this is the very first text of teaching. He starts by here. If you have this assumption, if you have this way of seeing the world, then you'll understand what I'm going to say. Then you'll understand what you need to hear. So this is the first thing to comprehend and to imbibe and to say, yes, this is how I will see the world. That I am eternal by nature. Krishna is eternal by nature. My family, everyone in my family, the dog, the tree, the elephant, the person who doesn't like me and I don't like him. He's also an eternal servant of Krishna. Just so that vision where you can see everyone and you see that there's no difference. So you're not going to treat an animal differently than a human. You're going to avoid a snake. So there's equality and then there's equity. You deal with people equitably. So you deal with a snake the way a snake has to be dealt with because the snake is in that body and has chosen that body, and you tend to avoid sangha with that snake if at all possible. So how we maneuver around the world. But I remember coming out of the Parthasarathi temple in Chennai one time, and I was just putting on my shoes. It was a festival day, a lot of people bumpity bump, 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 trying to get my shoe on. And then I bumped into someone and I turned around and went, "Oh, namaste." And it was a cow. But why not? Why not say the namaste to a cow and to the dog? We don't like dogs in India. Well, actually, now in India, everyone likes dogs. I forgot. Times have changed in the cities. But it used to be the case that no one liked dogs. But, they're nice little animals, squirrels, to give all respect. So this vision is the foundation stone of understanding our relationship with Krishna. Because I'm not Irish and I'm not male and I'm not entering my old age. I'm an eternal servant of Krishna and I'm in this deha, this machine, and the machine is doing its thing and I'm going along, oiling it, watering it, keeping it going and all that. But it's not who I am. I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, but I don't understand the eternal bit without understanding this. And interestingly, Krishna says this first. He doesn't start off by saying, Arjuna, I'm God, you're not. Do what you're told. Now, you could say that's all he had to say, but it's not. He had to introduce Arjuna to himself and say, Arjuna, this is who you are. And he continues to talk about this, and he really doesn't really talk about himself being God or the idea of God till we get to the end of the 6th chapter, into the 7th chapter, into the middle 6 chapters. A few little references as we go through, a little vague in the first 6 chapters, but he's dealing with something else. He's trying to get Arjuna to understand himself as a spiritual being in a material context. So how to act karma yoga, jnana yoga, building him up to being able to understand bhakti yoga. So that's why he starts here. He has to introduce him to himself because if Arjuna doesn't know who he is, he can't have a relationship with anyone else. And he can't have a relationship with Krishna. And that's what Krishna wants. And he wants Arjuna to have that relationship and relieve him of his dilemma. Arjuna's dilemma is a dharmic dilemma, classic dharmic dilemma. If I fight, then everyone gets killed. If I don't fight, people think I'm an idiot. He didn't know what to do. He got stuck. And we often get stuck and we need help. And Krishna is saying, if you begin to meditate in this way, then you won't be stuck. You'll always know who you are because who you are always transcends the material circumstance, the difficult circumstance. And the difficult circumstance can be very difficult. I mean, we've just gone through Diwali, and the day before Diwali Day is Narak Chaturdasi, more famous down south than in the north. But Narakasura kidnapped 16,000 princesses, and Krishna killed him and freed the princesses. But then the dilemma was that they had nothing. They had spent the night alone with another man, and maybe nothing happened, but it doesn't matter because they're princesses, their lives are ruined. They'll never get a partner in marriage. No one will marry them. They'll never get invited to parties, weddings. That's it. They're just young girls. So Krishna married them. And Krishna is helping us understand no matter how horrible the material circumstance is, the spiritual circumstance transcends it. It can make it something completely different. We can't imagine it. So that's understanding this transcendental nature makes it sharpens our ability to opens up our ability to have a relationship with Krishna, because he's transcendental. If we're transcendental, he's transcendental. There's the pathway for relationship. But it also allows us to act dharmically, because in all our actions we're detached. We're not part of the material circumstance. We're only playing a part, a role. We're actors on the stage. And I'm the role of a father, I'm the role of a mother, I'm the role of a son, a daughter, I'm the role of a president, I'm the role of a sweeper of the street. And whatever part we play it to the best of our ability, and we do it with the principles that we understand, that we've been given, that we've accepted. So that's the idea. So this is the first of the principles. The second of the principles will go up to the 18th chapter of the Gita. And it is famous. I don't know if I can find it again. 1863. Yeah. Yate chasi tata guru. Everyone knows that line that, Krishna says, "Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential." You can't get more confidential than this. Deliberate on this fully, and then do as you wish to do. Do as you desire. Icha is the word. And this word icha is very important in our tradition, very important in the Indian intellectual tradition, and consequently the Vaishnava intellectual tradition. When we read this, we read all this rules and regulations. You go to a temple and there's all kinds of rules and regulations, ritualistic ways of doing things, taking your shoes on, putting them off, and you have to approach the temple from the right side and the left side, and everyone does something. It seems like everyone's doing something different, and you just get confused. But Krishna says that ultimately you have to do what you want to do. And when we read this, it's kind of very liberating to read, but it's difficult to square it with the practice that we bump into. So what is Krishna saying? Is he giving us actual absolute freedom? And the thing is, you just read the words. He's giving us absolute freedom. And he gave us that. So this is like one of the last texts in the Gita. He gave us that in the first text of teaching. Never was there a time when you did not exist, or me nor all these kings, meaning I did not create you. You have existed forever. You were never born. You will never die. He did not create him. He's not the creator God. Our material self has been created, but our essence, our spiritual self, our Atma, hasn't been created. It's always existed. This creator God notion is an Abrahamic notion. It's not an Indian notion. So the Advaitins wouldn't agree with this. The Vaishnavas don't agree with this. The Shaivas don't agree with this. Everyone understands, no, we're eternal by nature. So God didn't create us. So we have absolute freedom. That's what this word, this principle, Icha, means. So when I preach to someone, just like Krishna's preaching to Arjuna in the Gita, I have to give that person absolute freedom to choose. So I can say, here are your choices. Here's the perspective. Here's what Krishna consciousness is. But in the Gita, Krishna also shows Arjuna what Jnana Yoga is and Karma Yoga is. And the first option he gives him, the first choice he gives him, is if he says, if you don't fight, people will think you're an idiot. They'll laugh at you. That's completely materialistic. That's just based on your ego. Arjuna didn't even think about it, but he gave him the choice. That's intellectual integrity. That's the integrity of our tradition. And that's very dynamic. You don't find that anywhere. Everyone's trying to railroad us into a way of thinking, a way of doing that ultimately benefits them. And the thing is, it's going to benefit you. Even if you buy a car, there's going to be some woman standing nearby, or a box of chocolates, or there's going to be some thing that's drawing you in. to entice you. You know, all the advertising people, they all know this. This is just common sense. You know, you excite someone's desire, but we have to be the person who understands what desire is, how powerful it is, and what our choice is. It's our choice. And consequently, it's the other person's choice. And if we give them the full choice, they'll trust us. And that trust is absolutely invaluable. That's the essence of Krishna consciousness, that trust between the devotee and Krishna. We come to Krishna consciousness, we hear something, it sounds very good, we have some confidence. We go to a number of classes or a course like this, and we develop some faith that actually this is, and I like the devotees, and it becomes more confident, and you realize there's lots of temples. Oh, this is actually a big thing. And then we develop our relationship with Krishna, and there's some reciprocation. We feel some reciprocation with Krishna. Then trust develops. And trust, Prabhupada says, develops into love. So there's a pathway, and you're on that pathway. Congratulations. So, but you have choices to make, and they're your choices. That's important. And when we convey Krishna consciousness to others, we have to make sure that we leave them the choice to make themselves. And I'll give you kind of an example of this that's just very simple. I've given this before, but if I don't know if any of you have children, but if you had, so from my point of view, my nightmare is to have a daughter, and then she comes to a certain age and she comes and asks me, can I go to an all-night party with my friends, you know, or, you know, their house or whatever it is. Dun, dun, all kinds of, you know, things ringing in my head and lights flashing. Danger, danger, danger. Why? Because I know boys. I was a boy. And I know how they think and how they feel, and they got hormones running all over the place. It's got nothing to do with rational thought. They're not even thinking. So what am I going to say to my girl? I'm going to say, you know, no drugs, no alcohol, no sexual activity. You're home by, you know, 2 o'clock or whatever it is, and you have to ring me at 11, and you have to ring me at 1 or whatever. So I look at the Bhagavad Gita and I see Krishna doing something completely different. If Krishna was there dealing with this girl, he'd say, what do you know about drugs? What knowledge do you have about drugs? And then she'll say her little knowledge and then have a discussion about it. And after the discussion, she knows more. She has more choice. What do you know about alcohol? What do you know about sexual activity and the possibility of becoming pregnant and all the knock-on effects of that? Then she has more choice, which means she has more control. So she goes to the party. Inevitably, someone offers her something. And they say, take it, it's really good, it's really good. And she'll say, what is it? Because she's thought about it. She knows there's a knowledge base to this. And they say, no, it doesn't matter, it's just take it, take it. Said, no, no, no. She has that choice that she can make that, have that discrimination and make that decision. That's Dharma. It's based on knowledge. There's a principle behind it. She's acting on the principle. And she knows how to do it. You've empowered her by doing that rather than just shut down out of fear. So preaching like that, developing that trust with someone, they'll always come back to you. If you shut down on them, they'll get further and further away. So that's just, these are issues of life. We've discussed ahimsa a little bit. Ahimsa is not negative, it's actually very positive. As I say, it's about consciously developing compassion and tolerance by abstaining from harming people. And how do you harm people? Well, you stop killing them, that's helpful. You stop beating them up every time you see them, that's helpful. You stop using harsh words, which means that you have to modify how you think. And you're just very careful what you say and how you do things, that you're taking everyone into account. And Prabhupada once defined gentleman. It's not a unique definition, but he quoted a definition of a gentleman as someone who puts no one else into inconvenience. And that's a gentleman. You're always thinking about the other person. So Dharma means that the word drit means to sustain. You're sustaining the cosmos, the universe. You're sustaining your friends. You're sustaining your society. You're sustaining your family, your country. You're contributing, always thinking about the other. And that's ahimsa helps us to do that. So by restraining ourselves from meat eating and being nasty to people and all that kind of stuff, then we have our dharma in context, but it starts to become a much more positive thing, that we develop virtue, the virtue of compassion, the virtue of tolerance, the virtue of kindness, of respect. These things are inherent in ahimsa. Without practicing ahimsa, it's very difficult to practice these things effectively or to sustain them. So that's ahimsa. The next principle, the fourth principle I'd like to share is not that one. Oops. Oop. Yes. Yadyada charati shreshtas tatad evetarojana sayat pramanam kurate lokastad anuvartate. Famous verse, whatever action a great person does, then other people follow. Whatever standards they set by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. And it's a statement of definition of what an acharya is. And it's the principle in Indian culture, maybe not current Indian culture, but certainly a former Indian culture. It's the principle of education. Education has nothing to do with the schoolroom, health and safety rules, building regulations, whether you have toilets or not, whether you have parents or not, whether you have students or not. It's all about the teacher. If the teacher is an acharya, someone who teaches by example, that's the essence of education. Everything else can be built on. Everything else is an optional extra. But unless you can find that teacher, it's not going to work as effectively as it could. It's not going to be profoundly effective. Interestingly, it's also the principle behind governance, behind good government. The leaders in government should be exemplary in their behavior because that sets the tone for society, for social norms. So if the leaders are paka in how they approach the world, then that becomes very important. So the idea of acharya, and I think you've all heard the principle of acharya, but the challenge, of course, is to be acharyas, even in small ways, to be the parent that sets a standard so that the child knows what a good parent looks like and then can become that parent. And I think we've all seen in good families where the parents work like that, that the children benefit greatly. And they end up with principles, very strong principles in their own life because they've learned simply by their parents' example. Yes. So then, and then to get to the, I don't know what time we are, 16:24. To get to the last two principles, sorry, I go to the 13th chapter. The 13th chapter is Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. There, texts 8 to 12 are a list of what knowledge is. And it's a wonderful list. If you just to read this list, the first word on that list is amanitvam, which means humility. Now, humility, I would argue, is the most valuable, attractive quality a person can possess. It's very subtle. It's very difficult to define even. It's like a fragrance, and it speaks for itself. When you meet someone who's actually humble, it touches you. There's nearly automatic trust. It's such a profound quality, and it's in every culture in the world. And the Anjali Mudra that we call in India the Anjali Mudra, but it's all over the world. If I go to China, I don't speak Chinese, but I go like this, they know I want help. I'm supplicating myself. And it's nonverbal communication, high quality nonverbal communication, because humility, it just oozes out of that mudra. So to be humble is not to be weak. Arjuna, his humility was to fight. That was him expressing his humility in his relationship with Krishna. He could have fled this field. He could have fought in a vicious way, saying, "You horrible Kurus, I'm just going to kill you all because you put me in this position. I feel so awkward, so ah." And he could have just slaughtered people in a horrible way. But no, he did everything judiciously. He did everything in a pucka way because he was doing it for Krishna. He wanted to please Krishna. So humility means understanding how to act in the world to cause absolute minimum harm. You're gone beyond the himsa if you're humble. This is just who you are now. And Amanitva comes from understanding our position, understanding that we are eternal servants of Krishna. And if we understand that's who we are, that's the truth with a capital T, then we're not denying the truth. That's a bigger truth than just honesty. That's the truth of what's actually going on in the world. And if you understand that, you become very humble because everything in the world is connected with Krishna. So you are the servant of the whole world. And Krishna talks about that in the Gita, the words loka sangraha. He mentions it twice in the 3rd chapter, text 20 and text 25. And he says that this is why you do something for the benefit of the whole world. He was talking about Janaki Maharaj in one of the texts, that this is the way people act for the benefit of the whole world. When you're enlightened, when you're detached, then you can do that. You can see the whole world much more clearly. If you see it all in relation to Krishna, then all the environment is Krishna's garden. Of course, we're not going to abuse it. Of course, we're not going to exploit it. Mother Earth is Krishna's devotee. Now, every time someone messes with Mother Earth, Krishna comes down as an avatar. She's a powerful person. You don't mess with her. So she's one of Krishna's great devotees. Why would we mess with Mother Earth? So, you take permission from Mother Earth. You take permission from the environment to work with the environment. This is essential environmentalism, just coming from this idea. And then the other idea that comes out of this in the 5th chapter is Sarva Bhuta Hitta, for the benefit of all living beings. So it's not just about the world. Then you define it more clearly. It's about the living beings in the world. The benefit of all living beings. It's not a conceptual thing. It's people. The trees are people. And we have to benefit everyone when we do something. So that's a very expanded consciousness, a very different way of seeing the world. And if we're to be honest with ourselves, that I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm not the director of the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies. I founded it, yay. And then I'm going to resign from it, and then I'm nobody. And then I'm going to die. So what was that all about? What was the point of that, of identifying with it, of taking it seriously? It's just service. I'm just doing a service for Krishna. That's the only reason why I'm involved in it. And if it wasn't that, I'd be doing something else, something else that Krishna wanted me to do. So how do we become devotees? It's all based on that honesty, and that honesty breeds humility. That honesty, understanding what the truth is of what's happening in the world and living in that truth, in that reality. Sat means reality, often defined as truth, but really it means what's real. That's what's real. That's what Krishna introduced Arjuna to, and that's what he's introducing us to. And he's introducing us at the end of the Gita to our relationship with him. And that brings us to the final and the 6th principle, which is priti. And that's in the 12th chapter, and it's from text 14 to 20. The end of every text is priyostime, because I love you, because of my affection for you, because you're dear to me. And Krishna in those texts, that's the shortest chapter in the Gita, but it's the final chapter of the Bhakti section. And in that chapter, he declares himself to Arjuna that I love you. And that's why Arjuna fights. He doesn't fight because of philosophy. He doesn't fight because he's a Vaishnava or a Shaivite or a Shakta. He doesn't fight because he hates the other side, or he doesn't fight because Krishna kind of tricked him into it in his mind. He fights because Krishna expressed love for him, and he then expressed his love for Krishna. Krishna allowed him to feel loved, and therefore allowed him to love. And in any relationship, if you say, I love you to someone, that's the first time it's been said, that's a real risk because you don't know what the other person's going to say. They could say, oh dear, or oh no. It could be a complete car crash, complete disaster. So Krishna took the risk of relationship. He said it first. He showed us how much he loves us by opening up to Arjuna. And you can see the whole conversation is this opening up. Krishna opens up to Arjuna, tells him something big. You're not this body. Arjuna opens up to that. Krishna opens up. Krishna says, here's Rajavidya, the king of knowledge. Here's confidential knowledge. Here's more confidential knowledge. Then in another chapter, here's the most confidential knowledge. He's opening up, opening up. It's a relationship. The whole book is a relationship opening up before our eyes. And he says in the relationship, I love you. And he says it in the 10th chapter as well in a different way. The seed verses. Again, great expression of affection. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dami buddhiyogam tam yena mama piyantite. Says, to those who are constantly devoted, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, you may not be attached to a spiritual institution, you may not have a guru, you may be unintelligent, and Krishna he'll still reveal in your heart. So you will never be alone. You'll never be in a circumstance where you can't have Krishna's love. That's a very dynamic statement to make, a very loving thing to say, that I will take care of you. You don't have to worry about anything. It's not based on religion. It's not based on philosophy. It's just based on the fact that I love you. And if you love me, then you allow me to love you. So very dynamic. So Priti, as a principle for us, how can we express our love as the essence of Dharma? Now we're into the essence of Dharma. How can let's take it to its low common denominator, shall we say? We're not talking about a loving relationship with Krishna. How can we be kind? So kindness is one of these virtue ethics that they talk about. But honestly, how can we be kind? It doesn't cost us anything to show a little affection to someone. A little dog in the street, a little child is in a queue, and you look at the child and you make a little face and you cheer the child up, and people are looking at you. Maybe you're in a Dhoti and Kurta and they think, oh, Hare Krishnas are nice people. Prabhupada says, if someone thinks a devotee is a nice person, someone connected with Krishna is a nice person, Krishna takes that as a real interest in him. He thinks, oh, they're talking about me. Oh, they like me. Oh, wonderful. Who are you? And that's the beginning of their spiritual life, of Krishna. Krishna's so anxious to love us and to have our love, to be in that relationship with us. He's so anxious that he'll take any excuse to just grab on and say, yes, you said you like the Krishna person, the Hari Rama person or whatever it is. And Krishna just takes that as pure devotion. Yay, you're in. And he just starts to put Krishna consciousness in front of you all over the place and give you the possibility of appreciation. So our ability to be kind to other people is a tremendous gift. It's a gift that Krishna is giving us all the time. So that's the gift that we should give to everyone else, because that's what Krishna does for us. So we should pass it on and not keep it in and just be going to the temple every day and say, Krishna, Krishna, please be kind, give me your mercy, give me your prasad. Oh, please, me, because that's what we're saying. There's no love there at all. just iPad, iPhone, I. It's, it's unfortunate. Devotional service. It's when we say devotional service, it's a translation into English of the word bhakti. The word bhakti means to share. That's what it means. Heart to heart, not any kind of sharing, share from the heart. And we have to learn how to do that, not from our head. We can say words from our head that help people rationalize things. That's great. But what convinces us to be devotees is that someone touched our heart. And that's the essence of our ability to reach out to others. But unless we share, then our heart doesn't become satisfied. And when we give away what's in our heart, what's Krishna conscious, our heart fills up automatically. There's no loss. It's a spiritual thing. It's not a material thing. If you take away from it, it's not diminished. It's still there. It's full, always full, and you give it away, and it's still full. But because you gave it away, it gets fuller. Because you're acting in love. You're acting as Krishna would want you to act. You're acting as Krishna would act. But he's not there, so you're acting on his behalf to be kind to someone. You're standing in front of some Muslim guy with a beard with a really nasty look on his face. He looks like he just swallowed a lemon. And, you're just standing there beside him in a queue. So what do you do? Just meat-eating Muslim guy? No. He's an eternal servant of Krishna. You turn around and you compliment him on his beard. You ask him how he's doing. Does he have children? Where he's from? And you just get to know him. Just have a conversation. Be kind. Be nice to the person. Be gentlemanly. Just little tips. We're not sectarian. Muslim, Christian, Hindu, these aren't important designations for us. And we should never get nationalistic. Nationalism means of the body. I am Irish. So and you are all Indian and Pakistani, so there's something wrong with you. That's all it leads to. I'm a white guy, so you're obviously all wrong. And we've been there. We did that for hundreds of years. The English did that. They did it to us Irish as well, by the way. But they did that for hundreds of years, and the white people were the bosses. Not that. Well, that didn't work, did it? It really didn't work. It doesn't work. That's sectarianism. That political. It all comes from identification with the body. And as devotees, we have to stop that kind of identification and break down these barriers that keep us apart. We should never try to elevate Krishna consciousness by stepping on someone else's head, which means devotees are good because Christians are bad. Devotees are good because scientists are silly. That doesn't make any sense. All scientists? Devotee scientists? It's a ridiculous statement. It doesn't make any sense at all. And it's really not Krishna conscious because it's not humble. It's not loving. It's not ahimsa. It's not giving them a choice. It's not based on samadarshana. It's a material calculation. And if you act like that, you're definitely not an acharya. So these principles are very helpful for us practically in our lives to begin to reflect on them and see how they're important in our daily activities. That when we talk about ethics and doing the right thing and what our values are, well, these are our principles, these are our values. And then we adopt them and we live with them. We live by them. And our lives transform. And the context is Krishna. We can look at them materially or spiritually. All the principles we've discussed are universal, save maybe the idea of Atma, the idea of Samadarshana. That's quite unique to Indian thought. Not Buddhist, not Jain thought, but all the thought that goes into making Advaitins and Vaishnavas and Shaktas and all the different things. And how we use it in Gaudiya Vaishnavism is very interesting because we connect it with Krishna. The idea that we're eternal, Krishna is eternal, we're eternal servants. That's the level at which we can connect with Krishna with no difficulty. and every other level is not as significant. We use our body to serve, we use it, but we do it in the mood of service to Krishna. I am an eternal servant of Krishna. So we sometimes hear philosophically, I'm not this body. Again, that's negative. You can't do anything with it. But you can do something with, I am a servant of Krishna. I am an eternal servant of Krishna. That's now I can cultivate that. I can meditate on that. I can see how I can use that. And these principles will help us do that. So there are some thoughts, maybe a lot of thoughts, maybe too many thoughts, maybe too many principles, maybe you only needed one. But just to give you kind of a big picture, and then you can reflect on these in your own time and just maybe reflect on one a week, get used to them. But I offer those just as thoughts, and thank you very much for listening. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Maybe can we have some questions from the
Yeah, there are
participants?
lot many questions. Like devotees are like participants are brimming with questions.
Is that there's only one thing in the chat box, so that's obviously bogus.
No, there'll be many hands flying in the air. So you can see.
Yes, Bhakti Yoga Prabhu, go ahead.
Microphone is not working. Microphone is off. But you
Apologies. I was thanking Prabhuji for the class and you and Primanjan Prabhuji for arranging and facilitating whole session. Prabhuji, apologies in advance for the a little long question. So you mentioned about a principle which is integrity of intelligence is to give choice, just like Krishna gave, and beginning from Karma Yoga to Bhakti Yoga, and even then he says, whatever you desire, you do. But and then we also talk about interfaith dialogues. But while it comes to our own Sanatan practices, we see that uh, we are not very accommodative. For example, like we would be okay to say that okay, Allah and Christ are Krishna only, but when some Shakta or a Shaivite would say that Shiva is supreme, we would disagree vehemently. So how do we, apply this principle here?
Well, I mean, as Premanjana said, we have an interfaith statement that's based on these principles. If I see, well, one of the 5 principles in the interfaith dialogue is no person or institution has a monopoly on truth. So ISKCON can't say that we have the truth because Krishna has the truth, not me. And it's not a legal fiscal entity made in this world. And some Shaivite might say that he understands the truth, and maybe he does or maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but I do know that Krishna is the only person who has a monopoly on the truth. So I'm going to go to Krishna because he's the one who is the reservoir of truth. So that's my focus. If someone says Shiva, now when I was in 1977, so 78, I was, yep, it's going to no one religion holds a monopoly on truth, the revelation of God, or our relationship with God. Thank you very much, Ramanj. So good. So you can take that down now, I think. So in 1978, I was doing some summer work, and for some reason or other, my brother had a record in the house. This was the time when people played big records, and it was by some British singer. But the first song was Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha. That was the first song. I had no idea what that meant. It was very catchy. It was done very well. The musical arrangement was great. I spent the whole summer singing that song, not knowing at all what it meant. Now it says Srimad Gopeshwaram Vande Shankaram Karnamayam, that Gopeshwar is Vrindaranya Ratipradam. He's the person who allows us entry into Vrindavan, Gopeshwar Mahadev. So Lord Shiva has a special place in our tradition. And, I learned that little mantra to Lord Shiva, that I just quoted. But my spiritual life I started chanting for 2 months. I chanted the Shiva mantra. The next year, I did a similar kind of same work, same 2 month period. And my brother brought another record into the house, and it was George Harrison. And George Harrison's Dark Horse album, like a very Krishna conscious album. And on it was another tune, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jai Sri Radhe, hey, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Krishna. We know it. I went around the whole summer singing that song. Couldn't get it out of my head. I had no idea who this Radha, Krishna, Jaya, hey, I didn't know if there were people or I had no idea, just words just going around. So I graduated. Lord Shiva, in my humble opinion, gave me the blessings to start chanting those mantras. And the next year, I met the devotees. So I just look at Lord Shiva as such an important person in my life. Vaishnavana Vitashambhu, the greatest Vaishnav, is Lord Shiva. So how can we, if someone comes and says Lord Shiva is the absolute truth, okay, maybe I don't agree he's the absolute truth, but I'm not going to argue with the guy about it because he's obviously convinced. So what's the point in arguing with someone who's convinced? It's like arguing with a drunk person or an angry person. It's emotional for them. It's not intellectual. It mightn't even be quite spiritual. It's just a conviction. And it's a kanishta, a kind of neophyte stage where you have a certain understanding. It's been given to you by a guru, family, little group, little temple, and this is the only way you can understand the world. And that's the beginning of spiritual life, starts at that level of realization. And I see those kanishtas in Christianity, in Islam, in Hinduism, in ISKCON. We're all over the place. So, but I'm not going to argue with any of those people because I'll be arguing with my Bhagavad Gita, they'll be arguing with their Bible, and we'll end up just beating each other with the books. I won't meet him. The opportunity to share my heart won't even happen. There's no basis for it. I'm not going to accept the authority of the Bible. They're not going to accept the authority of Krishna. So I treat them very respectfully. I treat them with as much affection and kindness as I can. I understand totally that they're eternal servants of Krishna. And I went through a phase where for a summer I was a Shaivite. I didn't even know it, and this person's a Shaivite now as well. And it's a phase they're going through. And it's a very good phase. To be dedicated to Lord Shiva is very good because Lord Shiva will take care of them. And he is a spiritual person and he's the greatest Vaishnav. And if they pray for something spiritual, he'll give them the pathway to Krishna. Vrindaranya Ratipradam. He'll give them entry to Vrindavan even. He got that permission, that gift from Krishna himself. So, and if I'm talking to a Christian, that person is dedicated to Lord Jesus Christ, who I look at his life and I think he's a Vaishnav. Wonderful person. Whether he calls himself a Vaishnav is neither here nor there. St. Francis of Assisi in Italy. St. Francis, he had a spiritual transformation after an illness. So he shaved his head. He wore robes. He went out on the street corner. He started to chant with symbols and chant God's name. And he became a vegetarian. I mean, how more Krishna conscious can you get? Yeah, he didn't know the word Krishna. But was he inspired by God, by Krishna? Oh yeah. He's been inspiring people for hundreds of years ever since. The last pope called himself after Francis. So the last pope was from a different sampradaya within the Catholic Church. And he should have called himself Ignatius, his boss. But no, he called himself that guy because his spirituality was so profound. So when I see that those levels of spirituality being practiced by these people who are not Kanishtas, then you can only take inspiration. You can only be inspired. We should never be disrespectful to any of the devas. They're so much more advanced than we are. They're doing so much wonderful service. Every morning when I get up, I pull my curtains, open my window, and I offer my obeisances to my guru, but directed to the sun to thank him for his service. Because without it, I wouldn't be getting up in the morning. He's doing such a wonderful service. Every full moon night when I'm driving home and I see the moon, I say a prayer to Chandraji and thank him for his wonderful service. He's such a wonderful servant of Krishna. And we have to thank these people. We have to be humble and know our position. We're no one, compared to Chandra, Surya, these people. It's incredible people, all servants of Krishna. We have to be generous, we have to be kind, we have to be compassionate, we have to be tolerant. There's no room for this nonsense of saying that, this religion is good, this religion is bad. It only causes conflict. No need at all. But I do understand the dilemma. And I had to go through it myself. I started off as a proper sectarian little Kanishta, preaching against anyone who didn't have their head shaved exactly as I shaved it. So we're all works in progress. We're all works in progress. But as we begin to understand and we read, the Kanishta is defined as someone who isn't very knowledgeable. Actually, that's one of the main difficulties. They haven't really read in their own tradition what to speak in the other tradition. They don't really understand their own culture. So it is important that we understand our culture and how broad it is. So, in that regard, let me ask you, Bhakti Yogadas, a question. What in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, the first book of ritual and performance in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, what are the three main festivals that it mentions, the three main Gaudiya Vaishnava festivals?
Apologies, Prabhuji, I'm yet to complete this book.
No, don't worry. Hardly anyone has read the book. Don't worry about that. No one's read the book. I'm just asking you, what can you imagine in the first generation of Gaudiya Vaishnavas? What were the three major festivals? What would you imagine?
I'm taking a guess, Prabhuji. First, of course, must be Janmashtami. Second is Radha Ashtami, and third maybe I'm sorry, Chaitanya Gaur Purnima.
Gaur Purnima. Okay, you got one right.
Okay,
Yeah.
only one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, one right. Janmashtami.
Okay.
The second most important festival was Diwali. And the third most important festival was Shivratri. And we've lost connection with that completely. That was the first generation. In the first generation, there was no Gaur Purnima, there was no Radhastami, there was no Nityananda Trayodasi. These all came later. And they came for good reasons, and it's wonderful that they're there. I love those festivals. But when we were starting out, Diwali was a very important festival. And Shivratri was a very important festival. Interesting to reflect on. So when I hear someone criticizing someone like Lord Shiva, you can criticize someone for misunderstanding and thinking that he's the supreme because they've read a book that says he's supreme. But why would you criticize them just because they read a book and got some fake news? People will change. They'll read another book. Give them time. Give them association. Give them a sweet. Massage their back, smile at them, be nice to their children. Why reject someone because they don't agree with your football team or your political party or the exact vocabulary you use to express your relationship with God? And even though we don't even know what half that vocabulary means. Anyway, there are just some thoughts back to Yoga Prabhu, just to complicate your life further.
No, Prabhuji. It is helpful, Prabhuji. Premanjan, Prabhuji, am I allowed to ask a follow-up question?
Up to Prabhuji, we have also many other questions. I'm
Okay,
waiting.
I'll refrain for now. Yeah.
Yeah. If time allows, we can surely come back to you.
Sure, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Thank you.
please go ahead.
But you have this question. Sometimes we do face a situation in life where we have to choose between one of the conflicting values or principles. So we have to prioritize one on the other. So could you share some lights on that? So it's choosing between idealism or sometimes authenticity. So could you share some light, your thoughts on this?
Well, it's one of the reasons why I looked at ahimsa as being fundamental to Dharma, so that we understand what the fundamental principle behind all Dharma is to cause the least harm. Um, and it means that we have to be able to discern in the circumstance. And this takes practice, and we're definitely going to make wrong decisions and make wrong choices, but you just keep moving on. You know, if you make a wrong choice, what can you do? You can apologize, you know, and you can try and clean up the mess in every way. But it's absolutely inevitable that we're going to make wrong choices in life. It's absolutely inevitable that in trying to not harm, we're going to harm. So we just have to get on with life and don't worry about kind of stepping over and trying to not step on anything. No, go boldly and do our service to Krishna with the softest heart that we can, with the most concrete resolve that we can, with the courage that it takes to do that. But we have to do it with discrimination, with that discernment, so that we're able to sort out what's the right thing, what's the wrong thing. The secret for Vaishnavas is to discern Krishna, to see Krishna in it. And there's a little thing that I say to myself, because life is full of difficulties, crises, little crises, big crises, mini crises, but crisis means Krishna. So as soon as something happens, you immediately say, where's Krishna? Where is Krishna in this? And sometimes it takes time. Krishna he has his own program. He's got his own diary and his own time scale. So Prabhupada once, they were looking at some land in India. Some ladies were going to give Prabhupada some land. It was wondering, Prabhupada stayed there, and he stayed there for a few days, another few days. Back to True Swami, Tamal Krishna Goswami, they were pushing Prabhupada. No, let's move on. There's nothing happening. And they were just getting bored, basically. So um, Prabhupada just said, no, I'm just waiting to see what Krishna wants. And he waited there for 2 weeks to discern Krishna. And then he decided, no, it's not going to happen. So he left. But he gave that 2 weeks. He gave it to Krishna. It's not a waste. You just see how Prabhupada worked. He did the same in Mumbai with the land and fighting for the land. He wanted to see Krishna's hand in it before he committed himself to it. Otherwise, why would we get involved? So we have to learn that level of discernment. And if we can practice that, if we can make those mistakes and learn from those mistakes, it takes courage to do it, then we will become expert and we will become very useful in Krishna's service, very useful to use the gifts that he's given us. And he's given us all gifts, every single one on this call. There are, I don't know, 47 people in this class. Every one of you has gifts that have been given to you by Krishna to use in service to him in this lifetime. And we can say that humility is, oh, no, no, oh, no, 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 not me. No, that's not humility. That's ridiculous. That's completely bogus. Humility is to accept the gift that Krishna has given and to accept it with our full heart and say, I'm very good at languages. I'm very good at administration. I'm very good at whatever it is you're very good at, and be brilliant at that and get better at that and use that in Krishna's service. Find ways to use it in Krishna's service. That's exactly what Prabhupada did. And if we can learn that kind of approach, we become very creative. We develop our creative intelligence. Prabhupada loved creative intelligence. He loved people who would try and do something, even though all the odds were stacked against them. He sent Shivananda Prabhu over to Germany to start a center in Berlin. He was going to Berlin. He told Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, start a center there. And he went to Germany and started a center there. There wasn't a single devotee in the whole of Europe This is the very early days, and he went off by himself, totally empowered by Prabhupada's. And he'd been in the movement a couple of years. He hardly knew anything about Krishna consciousness, you know. He just had this faith in Prabhupada and his bead bag and the three Bhagavatams, the first canto. And he went off and he preached wonderfully. It's like it's like magic. But he just had that capacity to just say, let's try. And that's how Krishna consciousness has developed. You know, in the first generation of devotees and even in the second generation. But the first generation, they went off and did all kinds of things, very innovative things that sparked off Krishna, that allowed Krishna consciousness to happen. They got arrested, some of them got killed, you know, they did the best they could under different circumstances. Krishna allows us to act if we use our intelligence in his service. Some people are really good at making relationships and networking. Wonderful gift. It's one of the ones Krishna gave me. The other one he gave me was talking, so I can talk too long. So we should have another question.
Yes, Dayamadaji, please. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dhanut Pranam. Prabhuji, as you mentioned that we should not lie, that is one of the principle. And if we are lying, there's many situation. We are living in a world, we are living in a Kali Yuga. Sometimes we feel that there's a need of lie. So in these kind of situation, what should we choose?
Well, obviously, I'm not going to say you should you should lie. You know, it's not. I'm just saying that here's the principle, and you decide what to do. You know, so I can say that if your husband comes in front of you and says, "Am I big and strong?" and he really needs to go to the gym more, then what are you going to say? You know, in some circumstances, out of love for him, you're going to say, you really need to go to the gym more. In some other circumstances, you'll say, yes, dear, you're the most handsome, strongest man I've ever seen, you know. So it's very individual. It's very individual. The thing is not to cause harm. The thing is to be compassionate, to be tolerant, to be kind. So, you know, I don't say lie. That's not a dharmic thing to do. But I do say be kind. Be loving, be affectionate. I hope that helps. But let's make it let's focus it a little bit more. You're in a situation where someone challenges you on your religion, and they say, because of your religion, then I'm going to beat you up or I'm going to kill you. And then, are you a Krishna conscious devotee? Then what do you say? So let's make it a little sharper. So personally, I've noticed something about Vaishnavism and Hinduism in general. There are no martyrs. Martyrs is a Christian Islamic thing, but there's no martyrs in Vaishnava Hindu. No one would think it sensible to throw your life away for no good reason. So if someone comes and says something like that, and they've got a gun to my head, and I know that if I say no, I'll get away to serve Krishna another day, I'll say no. And I don't think anyone's going to blame me. Krishna's not going to blame me. Why would I give up the Krishna given body that I use in service to him? You know, the instinct, the biological instinct is to protect yourself, but it's also common sense. You know, if I have service to do, if someone, well, I was in this situation. So I was in Ireland. There was a war in North Ireland. I don't know if any of you are aware of that, but there was a sectarian war in North Ireland. And on the border between the south and the north, when you went across, it was called bandit country. It was very difficult for the army to police it. So we were driving a car full of devotees, and we drove up, and there was a checkpoint. Now, there was always army, police checkpoints, but this was a paramilitary checkpoint. And the guys were in balaclavas with guns. Totally, these were terrorists, essentially. And they stopped us and put down the window, and they said, are you Catholic or Protestant? Because the war was between Catholic and Protestant. So what do I say? I say, I'm a Hare Krishna. So then he looked at it and he said, are you a Catholic or a Protestant Hare Krishna? So then what do you say? He didn't know what a Hare Krishna was. He thought I was just describing my job, or we're a pop band, or he didn't know what I was talking about. So we all looked at him and we gave out prasadam. We had some samosas. We gave some Back to Godhead magazines. And I said, we're a completely different religion. It didn't make any, didn't, the thing was, we didn't know if he was a Catholic or Protestant. They all looked the same. So what do you say? And we were definitely not going to say we're Catholic or Protestant. We're definitely not going to get involved in that discussion. And we discussed it afterwards as we drove away, and one of the devotees in the back said, what if he said, are you a Hare Krishna? What would we have said? And everyone in the car said, we would have said we were Protestant. It's like, there's no way we're going to give our lives up for some lunatic with a gun. It doesn't make any sense. And that's dharmically, that's not a lie. And from a Krishna conscious point of view, it would be foolish to do something like that. That's an extreme example. But on the whole, we're not in extreme situations. On the whole, if someone asks a question, we tell them the truth. And 99% of the time, that's how it works. But if there's a relationship involved and you don't want to hurt someone, then tell a little lie about how fat they are or how thin they are or something. We do it all the time, basically. We all do it, and we don't think twice about it.
So
Hope
can we
helps.
conclude that when may I?
Yeah.
Prabhuji, then can we say that if we are lying, just not to harm other, just to save other from harm, some difficulty, then that lie is allowed?
Yes. It's common sense. Deshakala patra means that you make it common sense. I'll give you an extreme example. This is a true story. In Holland in World War II, there were two Christian sisters. They were both hiding Jews. The Nazis wanted to kill the Jews. They had invaded Holland, and they'd made the law, you can't hide a Jew. If we find a Jew, we'll kill them. And if you hide a Jew, we'll kill you. So the Gestapo, the police, they came to both sisters at different times. Went to one sister and said, do you have any Jews? She said, no. They went and searched a little bit and left. They went to the other sister and they said, do you have any Jews? And as a Christian, she thought she should tell the truth. She said yes. She introduced them to the family. They killed them all and killed her. What exactly was the point of telling that lie for the first one? What exactly was the point of telling the truth for the second one? Which was the best thing to do? It's the same story as Kaushik the Brahmin. So in that circumstance, I can't say that that was a lie in real terms, because she was protecting everybody involved. And she was even protecting the Nazis so that they wouldn't get the karma of killing these people. That was all around, that was the best thing to do. So whether you call it a lie or not, whether you've never told a lie in your life and now you have to tell a lie, so you give up that religious principle for a higher principle, yes, of course, because it's going to benefit others. It's going to protect others, so harm isn't caused. So it's a matter of discrimination, of discretion. All dharma is. So I don't know if I've exactly answered the question, but I've given you some examples that can help guide you, I hope.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Can we go more? Abdul Prabhuji and Shauna Rishi Prabhu. Can we more questions
Yeah.
now? Yeah. Okay, Rakhi, please.
Rakhi Mataji, go ahead.
Can you unmute yourself, Rakhi Mataji, and ask?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dharma Pranam. Yes, I have. Is it okay now?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Prabhuji, as you says, crisis means Krishna. So definitely when crisis or any situations which is very difficult for us, it reminds Krishna. But sometimes, like, no, sometimes not. But that situation or that person, like, it disturbs us very most of the time.
Oops.
Internet.
Uh, then what to do in this situation? Of course, I have to surrender myself unto your lotus feet, but still we become very disturbed in our heart. So what to do? And the second thing is that if I am not the body, even not I am the mind, so what? Who is the who is that one who is feeling that happiness or suffering or pain when I'm not the body and I not even the mind? So soul, I don't. matlab, Uh, please explain.
Okay. Just to clarify, the first thing you were talking about was crisis means Krishna, but you were talking about what if someone dies? Is that what you were saying?
No, Prabhuji. If someone not dies, like some situations which is very difficult for us to face, or some people which are very like sometimes disrespect or hate, or sometimes these kinds of things really make us difficult and make us very like upset. So what to do then?
Yes. Well, and you were talking about which part of us is feeling happiness and distress. Sukha dukkha, happiness and distress, are material ideas. They don't last very long. You get some happiness, whoa, and you get some distress, oh, and we get very attached to our happiness and very attached to our distress, and we think that they're lasting a long time, but they're passing. Ananda, joy, spiritual joy, that lasts a long time. And when you feel it, you know what it is. But we're most of the time feeling sukha dukkha, and we're experiencing it in our body, in our mind, emotionally, and that's the level at which we're feeling it. We're not feeling it deep, deep inside ourselves. So it's to become a little bit detached from that, but we can only become detached from that when we start to feel some anand, when we increase our capacity to feel some spiritual joy in kirtan, in the association of devotees, in some circumstance like that. So to have a spiritual experience transforms the way we look at the world, because it's like we're living on bread and water and someone gives us a big plate with rasgullas and sandesh and paneer sabji and lovely dals and rices, and it's like, wow. Then the next day they come back and they give us bread and water. It's like, what? All of a sudden our taste has changed. No, this doesn't make sense anymore. Whereas before this was happy. Now it's not happy anymore. This is happy. So it's like that when we have a spiritual experience, we want more. We want to replicate it. We want to find it again, and that's finding Krishna. And we have to find Krishna in every aspect of our lives. So even when things become difficult, we have to understand as devotees that Krishna is also there. That's also his mercy. So he gives us joy and he gives us distress. It all comes to us because it's just part of the wheel of life. It's part of the play of life. And there's nothing unusual about it. And we learn from every distressful circumstance. And we learn from every joyous circumstance as well. So we're learning from both. But if we only have the capacity to learn from one, so prasadam means that when I pray for a BMW, you give me a BMW. That's mercy. Thank you very much. Hari Hari. No, prasadam means you get the BMW and then you drive it and you crash it. And that's part of the prasadam too. And that's the other thing we have to accept, that this is how the world works. And Krishna has just shown us something about our desire, our our want and our need, or maybe our need and our greed. So just because we didn't get what we wanted doesn't mean that we don't have what we need. And just because Krishna uh, pushed us over that way rather than going down that road doesn't mean that this isn't the road we should be going down. So we have to be open to what Krishna is saying. So when something terrible happens, it's circumstantially it's terrible and it's not what I want, but it doesn't mean that it isn't exactly where Krishna wants us to be. And we have to be open to that. That's part of that discrimination. Our principle is Krishna's God, Prabhupada's the boss. And then everything else flows from that. So if I'm happy, if I'm sad, Krishna's involved in everything, and just I can learn something from this. This will help me appreciate Krishna more, see Krishna more, accept Krishna more into my life. Krishna is in every aspect of life. So no matter if it's if a disease comes, we've all been diseased and we've all learned from it in some way. It's slowed us down at least, so we can think about something. Because one of the times when we really think, according to Chanakya Pandit, is when we're diseased, when we're really sick. So we really think when we're diseased, we really think when we're on our deathbed, we really think when we're at the crematorium, God. So if you're in those circumstances, that's when you're at a prabhachan. So when you're in those circumstances, that's when you really begin to think. So these are not bad things. To be at the crematorium, God, means that someone you know died. Well, that's terrible, but it's inevitable also. It's also prasad. And to see it like that, we practice that as a sadhana. When the terrible thing happens, it's terrible, but Krishna is also here. I have to now find how Krishna could be here in this terrible situation. So that's a whole meditation. It's a whole way of meditating and thinking. That's part of being Krishna conscious. So if we say a prayer and we don't get what we want, do we reject Krishna? Well, why would we do that? As a young Catholic, I was a Christian before I became a devotee. Still a bit of a Christian, I suppose. But as a young, I used pray for, sweets and Coca-Cola and, everything that a kid wants. I never got anything. I was really, by the time of my teenage years, I was completely frustrated with prayer. But I can see now that Krishna didn't give me anything because none of this stuff was useful. And he didn't want me getting attached to that way of prayer. So he just blocked it out. And as a devotee, I realized that not being attached to asking Krishna for stuff was really helpful. Because when I became a devotee, then I understood that prayer was something else. Prayer was prarthana, prayer was glorification, it was praise, it was telling Krishna how wonderful he is. It was being grateful, thanking him for everything he's given, and really not asking for anything. And that was so that terrible time in my spiritual life as a youngster turned out to be a very sweet gift from the Lord. But I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate that for 15 years. It took me that time to wake up. So we just have to be always open that whatever's happening, whatever's happened, whatever's going to happen, Krishna is helping us. Even if it's a terrible thing, and some of us are struck by terrible. My father died when I was 15. My wife died 10 years ago. My sister-in-law died 10 days after my wife. My mother died 3 months after my wife. It's like, what? There's so many disasters that happen in life, but where's Krishna? And of course he's there. He's right there in each and every circumstance. These things happened, and these things were of tremendous benefit for my ability to turn to Krishna. So it doesn't mean that I wasn't full of grief. It doesn't mean that you don't mourn and do all the things that you do normally. It just means that you're also looking for Krishna, always looking for Krishna. I hope that's a help.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Jai Tulsi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Prabhuji, I have a question, but before that, I want to mention something. I have heard few of your videos on YouTube. Like it helped me so much in my understanding, like some on convergence, some on atheism, and some on guru. So it literally helped me so much, and I'm really very grateful to you for that. And I'm feeling so fortunate to hear you one-on-one. And I want to ask something related to our topic today. Prabhuji, you mentioned about like taking choices according to like time, place, and circumstances, and also not compromising on principles and all. Prabhuji, like getting that much like maturity and acting according to that maturity, like we have to focus on principles that must not be compromised. Now we have to take decisions according to time, place, circumstances. Like it requires so much experience, maturity, and sometimes we don't have that experience, we don't have that maturity. And what happens, we do some disastrous, like some things which end up in disaster, and just because of our like immaturity. So how to like develop that maturity on a very like I want to say very in very short period of time, and act accordingly so that we can not do much damage. Like I remember I have in my past I have done so much like damage to many things and people's due to my immaturity and inexperience. But now still I'm learning, but I have so many like still I'm very immature and my decisions do harm others. So how to develop that? Uh,
Uh-huh. Can you ride a bicycle?
no,
No, you can't ride a bicycle?
no.
What would it take to ride a bicycle, do you think?
I have to like practice. I have to learn first. And then
Okay.
during practice, I will even fail many times, and then uh, uh,
So,
I mean, I will
yeah,
learn in course of, in the
yeah.
period of time. Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, learning to ride a bicycle is you get up on the bike. If you're a child, the way it happened, certainly in Ireland, your father would hold the saddle, so hold it steady. So you get up on the bicycle and you start to pedal, but the father's holding it, so it's balanced. The big thing is you don't have a sense of balance, so you get up on one side and you fall off the other, and then you cycle for a little bit and then you fall off. So you have to get your balance. It takes time, and you always fall off. There's no substitute to falling off. And then one day you're cycling, and then you turn around, and your father is 10 feet away. He's not holding. He's let go. This is how every child in Ireland learned to ride a bicycle. And I don't know how many times I fell off a bicycle, you know, but eventually it gets to the stage where you don't fall off the bicycle. There is absolutely no substitute to that kind of experience. And now at this age, I get up on a bicycle and I just ride around the place without even thinking about it. I don't think about balance. I know what it is all part of the muscle memory. But that maturity, as you might call it, only comes from experience. And the experience is good and bad. It's success and failure. Prabhupada quotes the old saying, failure is the pillar of success. So if, according to you, with all the people you've hurt, you've failed so many times, you're going to be a great success. So, if that's true, there's no there's no problem with failure. There's no problem with getting it wrong. There's just how do you rectify a situation? How do you respond to a situation that you've messed up? That's what defines you as a devotee. Do you ignore it? Do you ignore the person? Do you tell them that they're wrong, it wasn't you at all, or it was that person's fault? Or do you take full responsibility and be humble and say you're sorry? Because that's kind. So it's just that's how we become mature. We start to act according to our own principles, our self-declared principles. We've at least declared them to ourselves. And it takes the time it takes. There's no substitute. If I take an acorn tree and plant it in the ground, an oak tree will grow, but it won't grow at the speed of an ash tree. It'll grow at the speed of an oak tree, which is very slow. And that's just the speed that grows at. And the ash tree just goes whoop. And the ash tree lives for about 70 years, and the oak tree lives for about 900 to 1,000 years. Different life plan, different mature approach, different people. So just I was once asked, do I have any regrets? And I have more regrets than would fill a big, huge industrial lorry. It's just like I have so many regrets, but I don't regret any of them because they're what made me be able to see the world with a Krishna conscious perspective. They're the things that made me humble because I was humbled. I did so many stupid things. Even I had to admit I was an idiot. You know, it just got to the stage where it's just, oh God. And then you change. So shame makes us change. When we're ashamed, we don't want to do it again. When we're guilty, we're just afraid of reaction. I did a bad thing. Someone's going to kick me. Krishna's going to kick me. The karma's going to kick me. Guilt isn't useful. It's very negative, very selfish. But shame is when you realize that you've done wrong thing, you've hurt people, and you don't want to do it again. So you rectify. So it says it in the Bhagavatam. Shame is actually purifying. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of falling down flat on your face and looking stupid. That's our normal condition. It's unusual that someone gets up, stands up, and starts walking around. So keep on getting up. If we fall down, get up. Just get up and do it again next day. It's like the Brahminical culture. In Brahminical culture, the Brahmin, in Vedic culture, we might call it, the Brahmin and his wife, very important part of the process. They clean the house thoroughly, prepare all the articles, then they perform a yajna. And the purpose of the yajna is to recreate the universe. So you're literally starting again. You yesterday was terrible, you did all these stupid things, but today you start again. Every day we get up, dress up, and show up. That's what we can do. And then do our best through that day. And then all the experiences, the practices, they sharpen our understanding of what a principle is and how to practice it. And we'll get there. I'm very sorry I can't give you the miracle wonder drug that makes you spiritual or dharmic or anything like that. There's no substitute to being a fool and feeling like a fool and then deciding I don't want to be a fool. That's when you change. So, and we're all fools. That's the given in this material world. Why are we in the material world? Well, we decided to come back. We're all fools. That's just our constitutional position. No one can claim to be anything other than a fool in this world. But ultimately, we're eternal servants of Krishna. So the fool thing we can let go. We don't have to be attached to it. So we don't have to worry about it. So if it takes time to mature, it takes time to mature physically, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. It takes the time it takes. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. And
Thank
Krishna
you.
will embrace you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Krishna Priya, Sri Radha Mataki.
Hi, Krishna Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Okay.
Prabhu, I have a question regarding humility. As you have mentioned that when we recognize our qualities and when we wish to use it in Krishna's service, so I want to know when, especially in the stage of a sadhaka and especially sharing Krishna consciousness boldly, so won't that understanding the gifts of Krishna will allow us a subtle little pride in our heart? And won't that affect our consciousness and our growth in Krishna consciousness? So how can we truly be grateful without bringing that subtle pride in ourselves?
When I achieve that state of consciousness, I'll let you know. I'm only practicing myself. I mean, as soon as someone tells me, "Oh, you're very humble," I immediately go, "Am I?" Just, it's just that's the end of that. Back to the drawing board, back to square one. Like with Jai Tulsi, it's just you start, yes, you start again. It's constantly. We're we can just ever do the best we can do by Krishna's grace. And we shouldn't, this is the material world. This material world is full of difficulty, full of fault. No one in the material world is perfect, not even the pure devotee, because he's in an imperfect body with an imperfect mind and an imperfect intellect. So we're all just maneuvering around the best we can. When Prabhupada was passing away in Vrindavan, his godbrother, Krishnadas Babaji, a wonderful devotee, came and used to come to him, and Prabhupada said to him quietly one day, he said, please forgive any offenses that I've committed. I've tried my best to preach, but when you preach like this, then you're going to say strong words, you're going to preach strongly, and people will get please. And Krishnadas Babaji, he didn't understand what he was talking about. There was no, of course, there's no offense. There was no issue. But Prabhupada felt the need to say it, because it's the material world. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to bump into someone. You're going to step on someone's toe. You're going to do it with your words. You're going to do it with your actual feet. You can't avoid it, to make a mess. So don't worry about it. We don't have to worry about these things. We don't have to worry about all these difficulties. And humility, it just comes upon us. It's really a gift from Krishna, but it's part of us becoming self-aware of our real self, of our spiritual self, and our relationship with Krishna. And the more we're absorbed in that, the more we forget about our ego, and we forget that, oh, I'm supposed to look very religious, and like today. So I was at a board meeting in Oxford directly up to this call. So hence I'm in these clothes. But I could have put on a kurta and tilak and looked, kind of more spiritual. But I didn't have time, you know. But if we're humble, you don't care. It's not an issue. You just do what you have to do, and you do it to the best of your ability. And if you're not dressed properly, people might think less of you, but that's not the issue. But for many of us, it is the issue, how we look and what our status is. I've been in devotional circumstances where there's 3 people waiting to be asked to lead a kirtan, and there's this issue between the 3 of them as to which is the more senior, and they're looking at each other, and there's this whole thing going on, this drama. It's like a soap opera in the temple room. So, oh my God, just give it to one of the women, just let someone start a kirtan, it's just, why should it be an issue? So it's our ego gets in the way, and when we forget as we go on in devotional service, when devotional service becomes really important to us, and the way we do service, how we do service, the quality of our service, we begin to forget our egos, our identities. And we forget that, oh, with this person, I'm supposed to look like this. With this person, I'm supposed to wear my hair this way. With this person, they expect this. But you actually forget all that. And you just relax and you be yourself, because this is yourself. Finally, we can be ourselves. And it's stress-free, Vaikuntha. And as soon as someone says, oh, you're very stress-free, you go, I have to, what do I look like now? Because I have to keep on looking like that, artificially. Jai,
So,
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Krishna.
uh,
I think Premanjana, I've been on Zoom now for 4 hours. I think it's time to call it a day.
thank you so very much, Prabhuji. And we are very, very happy, grateful, very excited, and enlivened in our lives, and we hope to have more Sangha of you in future, whenever Krishna allows, whenever you are willing, and this happens. So maybe we can all unmute ourselves and maybe have a big Hari Bol or a clap and express our gratitude.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for your kindness. You're very kind, all of you.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Thank you.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Raji.
Krishna's kind.
Thank you.